This is the bonus section podcast, episode number 93. Instant gratification is thin soup. Are you the type of person that knows you are meant for something greater in this lifetime? And that somewhere inside of you, there's just this bigger version of yourself just trying to break through. But despite all your self-development, you just can't seem to find the way up there. Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the bonus section and the host of this podcast. And a person just like you trying to learn to live the most fulfilling life possible before it's all over. So to help you take immediate action to move in a better direction towards your goals, we take all the notes from each episode and we post them for a short period of time at freethinkingtools.com. All right, let's get started. In this episode, we discuss this instant gratification is thin soup. Thin soup. Weak soup. It's not nourishing. Okay, that's the key point here. And this is really near and dear to my heart because I have 5 kids that have grown up in a world of instant gratification where they were born basically with a cell phone in their hands. Even one makes a living as a social media manager for a major corporation. So I get what has happened to us. We've been conditioned to think like this. So the first point that I really want to get into is the fact that we're conditioned to seek instant gratification. If you think about it, you think about all the applications that are out there on your smartphone. It's really easy to say, oh, this job I'm doing is too hard. You know, this is happening. This is what's happening to productivity in a lot of businesses, and especially with the whole work from home movement, is we're losing productivity because work is hard. You have to really pull your bootstraps up and you have to go to work. I mean, even if you are a thinking worker, right? You're an information worker and you're working at a desk all day long. It's hard. Think about, I see them all the time myself because I'm a productivity pursuer and learner. I look at a lot of productivity setups online. And a lot of the folks that have these productivity setups are coders. And I'm in the website business myself for one of my real estate arms, and my partner's a coder. And when I look at it, I say to myself, my gosh, what unbelievably difficult, arduous, really like let's sweat it out kind of work that is. So how easy, I think to myself, would it be to procrastinate that? Because there are only so many calories that your brain can burn when you're really focused before the animal brain says, let's eat. And I don't mean just physically, let's eat. Let's get up, let's walk around. Your animal brain says, this is burning too many calories. We're getting hungry. And so to take a break, well, I need a break, we say. And that's actually your animal brain bailing out of what's hard and difficult and makes you the best version of yourself because you quit. And it's easy to quit now. And I mean in just short bursts and get some instant gratification on your phone. I mean, think about it. If you're listening to this and you have Instagram on your phone, if you have Pinterest on your phone, if you have TikTok on your phone, Facebook, I could go on and on and on. LinkedIn, I have them all. Now, I try to stay super disciplined and really just use them as much in a business context as I can. But that's not always what happens. And quite frankly, it's easy enough to start to feel good that you're looking at these things and maybe you see a couple of things that are gratifying from a business perspective. Things are working. Your posts are getting likes or they're being shared or comments are happening. Whatever happens, that's gratification too. But it can very quickly drift away into a more nefarious place. And this is why I say instant gratification is thin soup, because this is where it certainly begins to make you malnutritioned, per se, in a metaphorical way, because our need for gratification and instant gratification is being manipulated. We're being used by big companies for our attention. And then ultimately, hopefully our money is what the marketers hope for. So we're being manipulated. I'm not saying that this is anything new. I mean, drive down a highway back, in our olden days where there were more billboards that weren't digital and there was marketing all over the sides of the streets and the buildings and whatnot. Well, everybody's being manipulated to a certain extent. Come buy my goods, come buy my services. Sure, that's business. That's what makes the world go round. I understand that too. However, this instant gratification is a different thing. I mean, if I need to go shopping, I'm going to physically get in where I live. I'm physically going to get in a car and I'm going to drive down the street and I might have several choices and it's more work. But now all of a sudden it's all online. And so I'm there and I'm drifting off into things that I don't really need to do. See the difference? See what's changed there? So if I have to physically walk to a store or I physically drive to a store, I'm less likely being manipulated. It's an intentional work movement, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm moving in the direction. Now, it might be gratifying to go to that store and shop and buy something that I don't need. I mean, again, I don't want to get lost down a rabbit hole, but we're always being manipulated and it's super dangerous and it's making you malnutrition from an educational standpoint, from a growth standpoint. And that's what the podcast is about anyway, is trying to become the best version of yourself. So if you spend an hour, 2, whatever, and look at your screen time, it'll tell you the truth about how much you are into instant gratification, because that's all it is. I mean, unless you're really doing some work on your phone and reading a book, good for you. Right? If you have that kind of discipline, I listen to YouTube videos off of my phone all the time that are educational. I mean, I can't stop listening to them and I double time because I do it when I'm in the gym. So I'm working my mind and learning while I'm working out to stay physically healthy. So there are times where I really am using the tools. I'm using them. I guess I'm manipulating some of those folks that are giving away all this free content, right? So I'm winning. And that's not thin soup. So it's not just that we're saying social or these apps or things are drowning all of us in a negative way. You can flip the script on it very quickly and make it very nutritional, right? Per se. I don't know why I'm in this food analogy. I guess the thin soup kicked it off, right? But here's the real issue. Okay. So we're looking at all this stuff and it's making us feel good. I mean, I'm no biologist, so I can't tell you exactly what positive chemical we get when we see something that makes us laugh, makes us smile. There are really a lot of positive things that you can witness and watch, and you can feel good. So I don't know, is it the dopamine? Is it the serotonin? Is it the, I forget what it's called, oxytocin? I think if I get that right? Those things are going through your body when you're seeing these things visually. They make you feel good. But it's easy. It's light work. So here's the problem. What happens if you're conditioning yourself to be instantly gratified like that all the time in the face of light work, meaning your real work, and then a real setback happens? Then a real tragedy happens. You witness something happens in your community. And as of the recording of this podcast, that has quite frankly happened multiple times. It's been a rough ending of the season that we're in here right now. It's the summer while I'm doing this. And it's been rough. And I could see and I could feel one of the struggles was we lost somebody very young. And I could feel my community really struggling with this. I could feel all the friends and kids and, really struggling with this loss. And I worried about that. And as somebody who carries that burden of wanting to be a person for others, I get the chills just thinking about it. It's my call to action. I know when I'm being called, and I was. So I did a Facebook post because I knew there would be eyeballs there, and I knew it would get shared, and I knew it would get seen, and I knew I could probably help. But I worried. And if I could have all those kids listening to me now, I'd say this is the whole point. Life is going to kick you in the teeth, and you get really discombobulated when it happens young for the first time. I remember when I was in high school and I lost a friend. It was upsetting, but that doesn't stop. That keeps coming. Life is really filled with struggles. Some are really bad tragedies. Some are personal tragedies. Some are community tragedies. Life is difficult. It doesn't mean that there aren't wonderful moments, but what it means is for those of us who are aware that we're raising ourselves on something more nutritional versus thin soup, we're trying to share with you, just be careful to be that lightly fed. Be careful to be that naive, that instant gratification is something that's healthy. And I mean, a temporary visit and some fun is very different from really conditioning yourself to soften up. And that's what's happening. I know every generation from one to the next says, oh, in my days, we walked to school barefoot 6 miles in the snow. I get it. I understand. I think maybe there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth in some of the ways that we lived. I mean, before really automobiles or anything like that proliferated. And that's not that long ago, by the way. It's amazing how much evolution happens and takes place. But I think as time goes on, we just have some wonderful advancements in life, and it makes life easier. It makes it more comfortable. It makes it feel a little bit safer. And that's why I think when we see tragedies in other countries, we can't even imagine that people would be persecuted like that in today's day and age. So we have it good. We have it really good. Life is good. And so you have to be careful when life is good, because you're setting yourself up to be softened. And when you collide into life in a hard way, or something's taken away, or you're in shock and things change, I just want you to be ready for that, because it's coming. If it hasn't already happened, and if it has happened, great. Don't run to instant gratification. One of the key comments that I posted when we lost this person, this young person, I said, struggle comes and we have to lean into it. We have to feel it. It's not good to bury it. It's not good to pretend these things don't affect us. We have to really get into these setbacks, and we have to understand them. And it's a little bit scary because it's the equivalent of looking into an abyss, a dark abyss. That's scary. It seems like there's no bottom. But there's a case to be made that if you really look in, you begin to see, I'll make a case that it's your own reflection of your greatest self. I get the chills thinking about that image. To look down into the darkness and the struggles of life, and you just think it feels hopeless, and it feels overwhelming, and you just don't have what it takes. I don't agree. Because I think if you keep looking, something begins to emerge down there in the darkness, and it's a vision of who you could become, who you could really become. If you really would just push yourself into embracing struggles, small, large, deep, wide, whatever, but all of them. The Stoics of the 3rd century BC, the philosophers, the Greek and the Roman philosophers of the 3rd century, they really understood this. Think about how long ago that was, right? It's sort of mind-boggling how long wisdom just permeates from the beginning of time. That to take on these struggles and just to allow them to come, not to overreact, not to collapse. And that's why I'm saying, when the wind blows in your face, if you've been eating thin soup for a long time, you're likely to get blown over, and sometimes it's very hard to recover. So what I'm saying is seek out at least the smaller setbacks. Work a little bit harder. Push a little bit longer. Do a little bit more reading, a little bit more homework, a little bit more writing, a little bit more exercise. Eat better. All of this really matters. It really matters. Take it from somebody who's been around a long time and seen a lot of ups and downs and coached a lot of people at deep levels. I'm just telling you, anybody can do this. Anybody. I think there is a very bottom where you might need some real professional help. If you feel like you're at that point to start, go there. That's a great starting point to get a professional to help you with real setback, real pain. It's really good. Don't go it alone. In fact, I told somebody that just yesterday. You don't have to go this alone, but I also believe in you. I also believe that there is a greater version of you trying to break through. I say it in the beginning of this podcast every time, and because I mean it. I mean it. And we have to stop telling each other, oh, you're just fine the way you are. It's really bad, dangerous advice. We're never fine the way we are because life is always going to collide into us. So we have to always be preparing. We always have to try to be part of the survival of the fittest. I mean, that's not a competitive thing either. Just trying to be the fittest that you can be to survive life so that you know, and again, I think sometimes the happiness that temporarily visits us is because you leaned into the struggle. You found a bigger version of yourself and that empowered you. You know, there's a strange thing that when you're becoming the best version of yourself, it's amazing how much more energy you have too. It's almost like a recharging battery. It's like a hybrid battery that lives within you, that when you lean into some of these struggles and you take pain and suffering on in a mature, emotional way, right? It's amazing who you can become and how you feel energy and how you want to share that. It is pretty uncanny stuff. So, past the real setbacks, the bonus section of the podcast today is that we need to understand that life is a continuous and never-ending series of struggles and at its worst, tragedies. And that gratification itself is always only a temporary visitor. So if you think about happiness and gratification, maybe they blend together. It's temporary. And that's the danger of any sort of instant gratification, whether it come from alcohol, drugs, sex, social media, comedy, anything. It's really just temporary. And I'll make the argument that it's the struggle and tragedy that can run you over if you just condition yourself to always seek the gratification and you're just ducking the pain and suffering, the tragedy. Don't do that. Lean in when the dog bites, I tell my kids. Right? Think about that imagery. When the dog of life bites you, you don't pull away because what happens? You rip your arm off or a piece of your body off. When the dog bites, you lean in. You lean in, you push back. And if you push back just in the right way, the dog lets go. So that dog of life, that tragedy of life, it lets go. And you become more powerful or at least empowered. And you feel stronger and you feel a greater sense of self-efficacy. You can do this. Self-efficacy, self-capability. You can do this. But you have to stop looking for the easy gratification. Otherwise, you'll be malnutritioned when the dog bites and you won't be able to fight back. All right, let me go back and say this again. Instant gratification is thin soup. That means it's not very nutritious stuff. And here are the 4 points of this. 1, we have to understand that we are conditioned to seek instant gratification. The animal brain just wants to eat and sleep. So we're set up to be conditioned for that. And then we're conditioned by life to go and seek that in any way, in any modern context. But that need for gratification, the second point, is always being manipulated. So now we have all of this digital manipulation for our attention so that we can be fed the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, whatever chemical gets triggered when we see this. And now all of a sudden we don't realize we're really getting malnutrition, because the third point is, and it's a question, if that's the way you're training yourself and allowing yourself to be manipulated and you're always just trying to just get away with the easy parts of life, what happens when you face a real setback? It hurts a lot more. And the fourth point was the bonus section. So what do? Well, you understand that life is a series of never-ending and constant struggles and tragedies, and that gratification in any context is just a temporary visitor. So you want to lean in when that dog bites. All right, I'll summarize it this way. We've become accustomed to seek instant gratification in many areas of life. Because we're so hungry for a positive feeling, we're actually becoming more vulnerable. We must understand that the achievement of instant gratification is a temporary visitor, and we'll soon be confronted, unfortunately, by real struggle and maybe even tragedy. How will we be able to handle true setbacks if we're programmed to be weak and vulnerable? It's important to understand that life is mostly a struggle to survive. So we must beware that pursuing too much instant gratification is like eating thin soup that doesn't prepare us to fight the monsters that we'll have to fight. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get moving towards your goals. or anything that you're after for that matter, because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them for a short period of time at freethinkingtools.com, and we give you instant access. Also, don't forget you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We also post our content on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the Bonus Section channel. We'd also appreciate it if you would join our mission of becoming people for others and share our content with other people just like you so that they get the help that they need. All right? But remember this, we sign off the same way every time. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. So you go get to work on yourself and a better plan for your goals, and we'll see you in the next episode to try to motivate you to do just that. Thanks.